Hi, today we're going to be focusing on writing linear equations. Remember, a linear equation is an equation that has two variables that both change depending on the other one. Our first example says a rectangular picture frame's height is 5 inches shorter than it is wide. Write an equation for the height of the frame. So again, we have two things that can change. The height can change and the width can change. But we know that whenever the height decreases, the width will also decrease. Now the first thing we need to do is figure out which one we would call dependent on the other one, which one is our independent and which one is our dependent. In this case, the height depends on the width, so we can say the height is the dependent variable, which again we usually use y for, and the width is going to be the independent variable, which we usually use x for. Now that we've defined our variables, we need to be able to write an equation. It says that the picture frame's height is 5 inches shorter. Another way to say that would be minus 5. So the paraphrase might be that the width minus 5 equals the height. We're going to go ahead and write our equation based on that. So here's our equation. X minus 5 equals y. For today's video, that's all we are going to focus on is writing the linear equations. We're not going to graph them. We're not going to make a table of values. The second equation says, write a linear equation for the perimeter of a square picture frame. So this doesn't give us a lot of information, but let's go back and look at what a square looks like. Remember, in a square, all sides are equal. So if one of them is x, they will all be x. And to find the perimeter, you're just going to add up all of the sides. In this case, our perimeter depends on the length of each side. So the perimeter is going to be our dependent variable, or our y value, and the length of each side will be our independent value, or our x value. Given that we are saying that our side length is x, the perimeter, we're just going to add all the sides together, so we would get x plus x plus x plus x, and we know another way to say that is just 4x. So our equation here is going to be y, or the perimeter, equals 4 times the side length, or 4x. So our equation is y equals 4x. Again, that's all we're going to focus on now. The last example we're going to do says Finn gets $3 more for his allowance every week than Jacob. So Finn's allowance is dependent on Jacob's allowance. We can figure out how much money Finn makes based on knowing how much money Jacob gets. So we're going to go ahead and use x to define Jacob's allowance because that's independent, and then we'll use y to define Finn's allowance because that's dependent on how much money Jacob gets. Now that we've defined our variables, we can write our equation. $3 more could also be written as plus 3. So Jacob's allowance plus 3 will give us Finn's allowance, or in this case, x plus 3 will equal y, or we can use the symmetric property to say that's the same as y equals x plus 3. And that's all we need to do. Once again, the hardest part is probably figuring out which variable would be considered independent and which variable would be considered dependent. We're going to be working on this more in class tomorrow. If you have any questions, please email your teacher or ask in class tomorrow. Thanks!